let's go. So thanks everyone for coming. There's been a bit of hassle in the forum, so I hope the organizers get well with all the people. So yeah, my name is Ricard. I work as a lead automation in Wonga.
Yeah, my name is Newman. I work with Ricard. I've been in Wonga a little bit longer than Ricard.
Yeah, I've only been there for 4 months now.
4 months, yeah.
And you've been a bit longer.
Loads of changes in that time, Ricard, which we're going to discuss today.
Yeah, and this talk is about, you know, all the baby steps we are doing to put us in a better place from this Snowflakes world, which is grey and sad and sometimes even very annoying, to a better place where the ultimate goal is to build a common automated platform that can work for all the Wonga offices and all the Wonga products we want to run.
It's really going to look like that, right?
Hopefully, yes.
Okay, very good.
So, yeah, bit of introduction.
So yeah, basically we're from Wonga. We are in the DevOps team there. Wonga had a reasonably big DevOps team across different sites, so there was a team in Dublin and a team in London as well. However, there's been a reduction of force in that team, and we had to manage that. So really what we had to do is we had to really look at what we were focusing on. We were overstressed with the reduction in force, so we decided to really harmonise what we were going to do and reduce the amount of work we were going to do. So we're a reasonably small team, but we still serve quite a reasonably big engineering team. We tried to make as much self-service as possible at one stage. However, that went a bit crazy and people went to give what they liked. So we have to be a bit more prescriptive now and bring it back a little bit with the smaller team. We look after everything that a DevOps person look after. So we do the CI/CD pipelines, we do the logging, the monitoring, the infrastructure provisioning and configuration management. Most of the teams are quite new to the company, other than myself. So we have 2 new people on the team to support me. Before that, it was myself for a while. Yeah. So thank you very much, Ricard, for coming.
Yeah.
So a little bit of history.
Yeah, so yeah, we want to talk about that because it's a bit relevant. So Wonga started in 2007, and in that year, Git was not invented. Jenkins was called Hudson, and it was version very early stages. And most of the things we're going to talk about didn't even exist, not to mention the DevOps buzzword. And then Wonga started growing, started opening offices in other countries. Wonga acquired some companies as well. And they went through periods of massive growth. So engineers did their best to keep up, but sometimes when you do that, you don't have unified processes amongst the group. And then, as you all know, with the media, regulations happened. We needed the FCA approval, and as JP mentioned, there was a force reduction, there was a massive turnover, and of course when these things happen, knowledge is lost, there's no very good documentation, and everything starts falling apart sometimes.
It does.
And it leads us to the current problems.
Yeah, so basically, of course, what happened was we had such a huge growth, such a huge need for people to get what they wanted. Say it very quickly, and I'll get feedback on that.
Yeah, no, it's just a screen.
No, I'm not standing by the screen, but my head will reflect it, so it's fine. Thank you for the joke. Right, so basically, yeah, we had so many snowflakes. We were going to backfill a lot of work. We were just trying to get stuff done for people to get their stuff production. We were full intention of backfilling the technical debt, never really happened. Didn't really start off on the right foot. So we've refocused now, and we're starting off on automation first. We're only going to do it if we're automated, as my manager Fagan over there would agree. And basically we have
some cultural issues, I think we've mentioned before. I mean, there's no real DevOps culture within the engineering teams, and you know, sometimes these are great excuses as well. So sometimes we are seen that as the perfect excuse for like blaming someone when things go wrong.
We're the good people to blame, right? Because we're the blockers. You know? Yes, it's like you haven't given my 50 servers. I don't need them this week. I don't need them next week. I don't need them next year. But I haven't got them yet, so I can't do any work. So we were looking at everything. We're looking at processes because we are a group function. We look after acquisitions as well. We had a lot of different things coming in, a lot of different ways of looking after stuff that we had to support. We had no great monitoring tools around that. There was no DevOps culture, and
yeah. So essentially, what we want to achieve is like basically these bullet points. So we want to be able to build and provision servers and infrastructure from code. No more snowflakes. No more like people RDPing or SSHing into a box and running some crazy script. And an interesting thing, there were some Windows jokes. We are primarily a .NET shop, as they want to call it. So all our tools need to work for both Windows and Linux. And to make things even more interesting, although our production and pre-prod environment is running in a data center with VMware Vsphere, we're trying to move to the cloud. So again, all our tools need to work for both AWS and Vsphere as much as we can, which is not always easy to do, but we try to get there. And yeah, everyone wants simple, pragmatic, and efficient tools. Easier said than done. And apart from that, it needs to be progressively introduced, because you cannot expect a big bang release, or you cannot expect like 80 engineers in 5 locations to change their way of doing things. And it's very challenging sometimes. So, yeah.
Yeah, so really we went around and we looked at the tools we had, we tried to get the best of breed from those, and the tools that would work for us. We rationalised our CI and CD tools. We had a lot of different people using different stuff, so we'll see which one we picked in a minute.
Yeah.
And then we're doing the migration to AWS as well as much as possible, starting off in the lower environments, of course, with hopefully getting more production in. We're up to pre-prod in some regions on that. We're going to rationalise the logging and monitoring infrastructure. It's where do I go to see what's happening, right? No one knows, there's too many systems. So let's get it down to the one or a few if need be. And we're going to build better platform capabilities that can be shared across the whole group rather than just
So let's start with the interactive session.
Yeah, so this is an interactive session. So I would like people in the audience to shout out what they think we picked out of the selection of tools we inherited.
We think Jenkins.
No one? You can. Jenkins? Okay.
TeamCity.
Oh,
and Go.
No one even heard of it, I guess.
Right,
so those Jenkins people were absolutely right. We went with Jenkins. We started off in TeamCity. We went to ThoughtWorks Go after that because we had some consultants in. It's got a lovely UI.
Yeah.
Then we ended up on Jenkins. Okay, so the reason we ended up on Jenkins was a lot of people using under their desk actually. We went up to them and said, what do you use? Do you use the Go server we have? They're like, no, we have this box under Linux. Look after it ourselves. We're like, okay, there's knowledge out there, we're building on that. And it also supports hundreds of plugins. We can do configuration from code, which is very handy. So we have Jenkins Job Builder. We also have our own job builder as well in Ruby. And it's free, which allows many teams to have a master and as many agents they like and self-serve themselves. So we provide them with a basic level now of here's the Jenkins master, here's the agents, you configure the jobs.
So same exercise.
So next one.
Yeah.
So which one would we guess out of these three then?
Gerrit.
GitHub. Everyone like GitHub? Okay. Let's see. Yeah, we split it actually.
Yeah. So there are some reasons behind that.
We didn't manage to rationalise that much.
So JP likes Gerrit, I like GitHub, and we constantly fight over that. So some reasons for Gerrit.
So reasons for Gerrit that I like. Before we used to have Crucible, we used to have GitLabs, we used to have Gitolite, we used to have all of that fun, and we just had this big massive system that didn't work very well together. So we now have a nice review process, we have a CI process behind that as well, so people can decide how they want to flow through the system. They can do pending heads, verification, linting, commits, and whatever they like. It's also replicated as well for DR. It's LDAP backend authenticated, so that helps us manage the groups as turnaround and churn happens. Integrates with tools like Jira through plugins, hooks, and other stuff we wrote. So if you write the Jira ticket in, we can kind of link back the commit to a ticket which the SEA like. And then it's got very detailed access control lists, and as I like it, a nice project structure where I can have different project levels.
But then some things we're using GitHub as well, and as our team is using GitHub, and as we said, we are servicing a lot of engineers, so we are trying to we're allowing them to use both for the moment. So I like GitHub because it has a nice UI and many developers are familiar with it. The hooks integration is quite nifty, so you can achieve most of the things you could achieve with Gerrit in terms of CI/CD pipelines after each commit. There's this pull request model which is debatable. I didn't have many debates in the past, but in Wonga people seem to like these Gerrit flows versus the pull request model. And one of the things to me that I would like to move all the way to GitHub is that you can delegate DRHA to them, but then you don't want to see yourself in a situation where you cannot deploy because GitHub is down, or even HipChat is down, like some people are experiencing these days. So if you go all the way to GitHub, you need to consider that you should be able to deploy even when GitHub is down, which sadly happens quite often because they get attacks. And there's also the wiki page, which is not a massive thing to have, but it's good to have as well. So we're still in the middle, and we're allowing teams to use both at the moment.
Yeah, so this is another one then. We Puppet Labs, Chef or Ansible. Okay, everyone, yes. Puppet, hands. A few people.
When was this decision made?
So mainly when the Puppet
so yeah, the beginning of during January, February, let's say. This year.
This year. All right. Yeah.
Chef and Ansible.
Whoa,
Okay, you see, I have friends here, so guess what you think?
I love Chef, by the way, but we won't get into that.
No, the thing with Chef, it's a great tool, but we were not using it properly.
It's too big to manage for a small team, really. All the servers, all the infrastructure around it. So Ansible was something.
I mean, to me the strength are the learning curve is much easier than the other two. So we had, even being a small team with people without any experience with either any of these tools, really, with Ansible they were able to manage servers pretty much straight away as soon as we created the roles. And it's agentless, which is something I like and some people dislike, but you can also do Ansible pulls. So say you pull the repo and then it executes locally, so you don't need to target the boxes from your box. You can pull the repo and run it locally.
Except on Windows.
And then, as we mentioned before, we have a lot of Windows boxes, and Ansible plays nicely with running Windows servers, but you need to run Ansible from a Linux box. So things like an auto-scaling group and the user data, you cannot use Ansible for that. You need to use PowerShell commands or something. And even if you don't know much about Ansible, there are some decent community roles in Ansible Galaxy to get you started. But then it has some issues as well. Is there anyone from Red Hat here? Okay. Sorry, but Ansible 2 is still a bit buggy, and we're suffering some of these issues sometimes. And as I mentioned, you always need a Linux control machine. So if you are primarily a Linux shop, it's fine. But when you have Windows, you may overcome these issues I mentioned. And it's less flexible than Chef or Puppet unless you write your own modules.
Yeah, it's not DSL, is it really?
Yeah, and you cannot open Ruby, so the Ruby tags and do some Ruby craziness like JP likes to do. And arguably, the quality in Ansible Galaxy is very variable. So you can find very good roles, but then you can find things that are only halfway through at best. So always have a look at how many stars the roles have and how many people download them, because otherwise
who's got the biggest stars at the moment?
Don't talk about that.
The other one?
Yeah. Yeah, that's another story. And then monitoring.
Yeah, so you can see we've got a lot of monitoring that we inherited.
And there are also some in-house tools that we didn't mention.
And Influx is so good it came off the screen.
Yeah, that's Influx DB, but Gray is not very good.
So, New Relic, anybody? New Relic, a good few. What about Splunk for the logging? Good few. What about Ops Manager? Anyone? No? No one at all? Okay, so Elasticsearch, Elk Stack. Not a pound, please.
And Influx DB?
And Influx DB.
Okay.
So let's see what we picked. We did pick Splunk, yes, whoever said that.
We're already paying for it, so
We're moving away from it, we're going to go to the Elk Stack.
We want to move a bit to the Elk Stack, but then we'll see how it goes, because people have experience with Splunk. We'll talk about it. And InfluxDB is good for time series, so to complement the other two. New Relic is a great tool, but we are not using it as we should, and then it's quite expensive, and if you're not using it for what it's good at.
We asked people what they use New Relic for, and they said checking the disks and
CPU.
CPU usage. We're like, do you do the call graph? Do you do the... Don't know what they are, don't know how long the function takes, doesn't matter. So we said you don't need it.
Yeah, but then, I've used New Relic in the past for PHP and Java, and it's a great tool.
Yeah. And but no one goes into the stack, so...
Yeah. And Ops Manager, let's not talk about that. And then, Elk versus Splunk.
Yeah, so we started picking up Elk a little bit more now. It's a decent in-house experience of Splunk, and the Splunk dashboards are still a little bit better than the command ones. However, we don't actually use Splunk dashboards, so or do that anyway near the other.
Yeah, but consultants come and show some nice graphs, so it's easy to convince some people to keep paying.
And we found as well, using Elasticsearch and the Elk stack, that people actually think more about what they're logging, rather than you point, Splunk at something and it'll go and do its best to analyse it, whereas they don't really know what they're analysing, or they don't really care. So
in Logstash you need to specify the grok patterns, but then Splunk can mostly guess itself sometimes, so that...
Yeah, and that just means that no one cares, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like someone else will look after it. I don't need to trim my logging to be appropriate.
And to be fair, we're still experimenting with Elk for our own stuff before we leverage those capabilities to other teams, so we'll get there, hopefully. And then influx data. Not sure how many people are aware of this platform. It's relatively new. It's a platform for collecting time series data, which is essentially the evolution over time of a particular metric, so the number you can collect. And as you can see, so if you think about it, you can get both system metrics, so things like the CPU usage, the memory, the hard disks, and all that sort of stuff, but also you can model business metrics around it. So say, how many loans have been opened in the last hour versus how many loans were opened 3 months ago, maybe. And it's a stack, so there are a number of components. InfluxDB is the database where the data is stored. Telegraph is the agent you install in the boxes to send the metrics to the InfluxDB store. And then they have a component called Chronograph, which is the dashboard, but we're using Grafana, which can be plugged to InfluxDB as well. And there's another component which is called Capacitor, which is you can model kind of workflows out of the metrics. So say, if the CPU goes 75%, post a message on HipChat or maybe even call PagerDuty or something like that. We are still exploring those capabilities. And again, some concerns. So, as everything in Windows, still experimental. And we reached out the company. They said they will stay like that for a while. So be aware of that. And it's still 0.12 at the moment, and there are breaking API changes. So the last version broke Grafana 2.6. So we need to wait for Grafana 3 unless you do a horrible hack in the JavaScript file. And the thing is that when you try to get people to use time series data, you need to explain them what it is and what it's not, so some people get confused about it. And we are starting to engage with the dev teams so that they can post metrics to that InfluxDB storage, but we are still getting there. And if you are thinking about sending massive amount of data, the InfluxDB cluster is not free anymore, so you will have to split the data amongst single servers or pay them for the clustering, which is an option as well. And yeah, finally, there's no debate here, I guess. I guess everyone is aware of the HashiCorp stack.
Exactly, we went very heavy on the HashiCorp stack.
And yeah, we have started using Packer to build images and Terraform to build infrastructure. So Packer, if you want to.
Yeah, so Packer works nicely both on Windows and Linux. Plays nicely with AWS and VMware. And it's easy to share provisioning scripts. Most of them are language or rather platform specific rather than agnostic, so we have the PowerShell. So
that you can end up with the same server in AWS and VMware pretty much,
exactly,
because you share the provision
scripts. So we share the provision scripts across there. It's easy to understand then configuration management tools such as the heavier Chef Puppet for the people that are picking it up, less of a learning curve for them.
And some caveats as well.
Yeah, so
you've suffered that.
Yeah, you need to be very prescriptive about it, or the number of templates can grow out of hand quite quickly as well. We manage secrets, which is one of the hardest things we're doing at the moment. It's not very dry, which I didn't like, so you repeat yourself quite a bit.
Yeah, there's no include directive, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit annoying. Some of the HashiCorp stuff they have stuff included in one thing and not in the other, and they don't share similar paradigms, which is a little bit unfortunate.
Yeah, and another thing we've seen that in Linux, it's debatable if it's better to just bake only the operating system and maybe Java and nothing else and then provision up front. However, in Windows, we found a lot of benefit here because we installed the latest patches, we installed .NET Framework and a number of tools, and pretty much every developer can use those servers to run the application.
We have to bake very high because the baking time is quite long, and the provision time is very long. On the Linux, we probably wouldn't even bake that much at all, depending on what we're deploying on it.
And then Terraform. Yeah, strengths. Well, it plays nicely with AWS, and if you've tried to use it with anything that is not AWS, it's not that nice. It has initial support for Vsphere, so in the latest version you can even spin up Windows boxes in 0.615, I believe, and it's quite actively developed. So there's more to come on Vsphere and many other providers. This pluggable provider system is quite good, so I would say that maybe in 2 years from now Terraform will have adapters for pretty much every platform that is out there. And you can write your own if you know Go, which is a language that it's great, so it's worth having a look at it. And the reality is that there's no real cloud agnostic competitor. I mean, if you are fully in AWS, you can use CloudFormation, but then if you have a number of different clouds you want to operate, I think Terraform is the only one who can talk to many of those. And again, some issues. You've used Terraform, you're aware of them. Documentation is not great, and sometimes the error messages you get are a bit misleading, confusing. And some of the providers, which again are not AWS, don't have nice update support. So for instance, the Vsphere provider, if you change the IP address, it blows the machine and it creates a new one instead of changing the IP address, which is something that should be supported. The state files, how do you share the state files? There's always this debate. Do you store it in the Git repo? Do you put it on S3 or in console? Or you pay Atlas to store it, and which is a console instance, effectively. And the Terraform modules are still a bit hacky if you want to reuse things. So most people end up doing symlinks instead of using the Terraform modules, which is not great. So even though it's a great tool and it's trying to solve a very complex thing, I think it's still relatively immature, unless you're using the AWS APIs, which is very, very mature at the moment. So be careful with that. And yeah, some success, at least in 4 months.
Yes, we had good engagement within the team using both of these systems. So we had people that are more Opsy than DevOpsy using it and picking up very easily. Building packet AMIs and the VMware templates was reasonably easy to do. I think guys got it done in a week even.
Yeah, like a week.
And some services are already fully managed by Ansible now, because how quickly we've moved into this new world.
They have a massive HA proxy setup, fully managed now.
So the speed at which we've moved in and deployed this is very fast. Many servers rebuilt from configuration management now. Smaller Terraform setups is still working.
Yeah, and the near future is to stay with the HashiCorp path. So we have plans to use Consul for both service discovery and config storage. Even though we are a financial services company, we are not great at handling secrets and keys and things like that. But we're not the only ones, I guess. So we will possibly look at HashiCorp Vault. And again,
We just don't check them.
yeah, we don't check them in Git, so we will soon start, hopefully, the production migration to AWS. As JP mentioned, we have already some components in pre-prod, and generally speaking, we need to keep working on the current successes and think platform as we started, because the ultimate goal is to provide a platform. So it sounds like baby steps, but we've come from a very bad situation to a better situation now, I think, and I think most of the steps are in the right direction, even if you may disagree with the tools we chose. We at least try to explain why we chose them. And yeah, there's a still long journey ahead. It will not be a straight line, so there will be like a bit of back and forth, but hopefully we'll get there. And if you like the talk, maybe if Mark can invite us in 6 months from now, we can tell you how we are doing.
No pressure, no?
No pressure, yeah. And yeah, so mandatory, we are hiring. So if you want to work on that, come talk to us, and thanks for listening. And if you have any questions, now's the time, or later with the pizzas and beers and whatever.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much, guys.
Okay, questions? Who's got a question?
What stumble there?
Good catch.
So
Good catch, yeah.
my question is how you go about like selecting the tooling and evaluating it and like deciding as a team that you want to use it.
Which tool, sorry?
So you come up with the tools, for example, you want to use either Ansible or Chef or Puppet, and how you evaluate them, and then how do you get the team buy-in that you want to pick this particular tool?
So in terms of stuff like that, for example, we already had Puppet before, we had Chef before as well, so we would move from Puppet to Chef for better Windows support about 3 years ago. And then when Ricard came in, we were like, it's a painful transition to move to a new tool. We'll just maintain what we had. He showed us Ansible, he had used it before previously, and we were like, okay, we'll ditch all that, that's fine.
Yeah, it was a bit of a dictatorship. Well, maybe. Maybe JP will have a different opinion on that. But the thing is that I had a good collection of Ansible roles, and we really did a bit of an experiment, like try to automate something with Ansible and show it to the other guys who didn't have any experience with either Ansible or Chef and compare them both to. So in that case, it was all about simplicity more than anything else.
Exactly, so we had a big team before, we could support a lot of people, we could help people through the learning curve of Chef or something like that. Whereas with Ansible, we didn't need to help them as much. They just picked it up pretty easily. It's not a DSL, it's a data file, I'm not going to get into it, but YAML's a data format. But yeah, it was fine.
See, every day is like that. Keep going.
So we had a lot of visibility on a lot of tools. Some of the new tools like Influx and Elasticsearch we had used before, we had used it slightly before, but we thought, we should really just go with one tool and galvanise that experience and work with it. So that's what we decided to do. And we chucked out a lot of the stuff we'd already used before because of the pain points we had.
Yeah, but things like Gerrit versus GitHub, there are a good amount of repos in Gerrit that you cannot just move them to GitHub straight away because you could break up the CI/CD pipelines. Especially if you have hundreds of repos. So
a lot of
it's tricky sometimes. Sometimes it depends on, it's kind of per case kind of
So
decision.
for something like that, for the GitHub versus Go, we'll probably keep both for a good while, and we're trying to see if we can have the same CI pipeline that we have in Go at the moment, where you have a kind of pending head commit that gets linted, checked, and everything else before you merge the master. We don't have any branches, we don't have any forks, we don't have any of that. It kind of represents a full model without really doing anything.
Yeah, but I like branches, so you know.
Yeah, we disagree on that too, but
We're constantly arguing. And things like Jenkins, yeah, I mean, it was, in the Jenkins case and the monitoring tools, it was more about cost than anything else and usage of the tools.
yeah.
So, yeah, there's always kind of, if you're asking about how, if we have these meetings with cigars or something, kind of.
We miss a good cigar.
Kind of, not cigars, but kind of, yeah, we try to be flexible and
Yeah.
JP will say that I'm a little dictator, but yeah, that's on the answer.
We kind of push back and forth a little bit
Yeah.
as well, which helps, so
Yeah.
that's good.
We challenge each other constantly, which is great, I guess.
Next question.
On the back, Marcus, you approach here.
So now that Windows and Linux are basically the same thing, as we all know, you're gonna have a slide with Windows and Linux on it pretty soon, right? Which one's gonna win?
Linux will probably always win, and I missed the memo about them being very similar.
Yeah. So I guess the application will mostly run on Windows forever in Wonga, I would
Yeah.
say, but we are trying to wrap Windows with open source Linux tools.
Yeah.
So we will possibly keep Windows as a compute engine and SQL Server, and then we'll wrap it with login monitoring and infrastructure automation with open source tools, I guess. But I don't think Windows will ever be close to Linux in many ways. That's my
Yeah, we
opinion.
still have.
It's getting there, but
We have people that are very comfortable clicking around the UI for some reason, I don't know why, but they just are. And you know, even when something like Core comes out, they're probably going to get a bit lost in that. So hopefully it'll drag them in the direction of Linux, but I don't think we'll ever fully get them over to that, even when Mono comes very supportive.
And then, you know, with Windows, if you want to automate, I mean, even Ansible, if you look at the code, it's pure PowerShell, really, because there's no way to be agnostic on that. It's the same, well, it's not the same, but it's similar to be agnostic cloud and data center. It's kind of impossible, really. You can have the code committed for both ends, but it's tricky.
And in some ways, it's just best to be native on something,
Yeah.
rather than try and make something that is very agnostic. But high-level stuff like Terraform, we can use that, but some of the providers underneath are very native.
So there's no temptation to get rid of the Windows licenses.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah, every day, but try to convince like these hundreds of developers and you know all the applications that are running there. I mean, if you ask me and I could start fresh, I could go Java or Go and you know maybe Cassandra and MySQL, but unfortunately it's not a greenfield project, it's not a startup, and we can experiment with new projects, like new products with new tools. So we are trying to introduce RabbitMQ, for instance, now as the message bus because we are using nService bus and MSMQ, and it gives us a lot of problems in the AWS. Well, you cannot run them at all. So yeah, there's some room for change, but it needs to be gradual and step by step. So I mean, I would love to, but that's not the world we live in.
I'm happy if the developers get out of the IDE now and again.
Yes, that would be an improvement.
Okay, any more questions? Yeah, one more. Serge.
I'm wary of throwing this. Who wants it?
Just a quick question about what development teams running. When they migrated, or when you migrated from what is very much in-house data center to cloud, how they done to that? In terms of,
So-
you know,
Oh yeah, there's a learning
things.
experience. So if you think about a data center, I mean, obviously you shouldn't, but you expect it to always work. In a cloud environment, you know it will fail sooner than later. So there's a learning experience there, and this is why we have started with only the dev environments to kind of educate them in a way, so that they get more used to failures, they build apps being more resilient. And yeah, it's a long journey. I mean, some of the things are easier to migrate, so things like LambStack, which is PHP's kind of like easy to scale horizontally, even though it hasn't the best performance, but then things like .NET running tools are not that easy. So yeah, I mean, it will be painful and it's an experience, but that's the path.
the new stuff now is going to be a bit more RESTful if possible, and they're building that. That's great. Some of the old stuff is point-to-point messaging using end service bus,
which is impossible to run in the cloud. Yeah,